Hello, my name is Jim Downs, and I'm a field specialist in forestry for Ohio State University Extension. Today, I am back out on my tree farm in Rockbridge, Ohio, to introduce an important non-native invasive species in Ohio, and that is Oriental Bittersweet, also referred to as Asian Bittersweet. As the name would suggest, this plant is not native to the United States. It was originally brought over here from Asia in the 1860s. To identify Asian bittersweet, we'll be looking for a twining vine, so a vine that will tend to grow in spiral patterns, so it will physically wrap itself around the branches and stems of other trees and plants. These twining vines themselves can effectively girdle and effectively kill the branches and stems of other trees on occasion. The leaves of bittersweet are alternately branched with simple serrated leaves. The serrations on the edge of the leaf tend to be somewhat rounded, so they tend not to be very sharply pointed. And the leaves themselves tend to be somewhat of a round shape as well, which this can serve as an important distinction between this and a native bittersweet vine, American bittersweet, where American bittersweet tends to have more football shaped leaves compared to the roundish lobes and roundish shape to Asian bittersweet. Another important distinction between the two different bittersweets is the fruit. So the fruits on Asian bittersweet, as we can see here, are going to be produced all along the stem. They will actually be coming from the base of the leaves, or the leaf axil is essentially where the fruits or the flowers will form on Asian bittersweet, where on American bittersweet, those fruits will only form out on the ends of the nodes of the branch. So the very ends of the branch will be where you'll see the fruit produced on American bittersweet. For Asian bittersweet, these fruits, which are kind of these dry capsules, as they ripen, the outer scales will be a fairly bright yellow. As those yellow scales break open to reveal the seed inside, that seed will be a very bright red color. On the American bittersweet, the outer scales will be an orange color, and the fruit on the inside will be an orange color. And this is actually one of the reasons why Asian bittersweet is such an important non-native invasive species, is because it actually has the ability to cross-pollinate with American bittersweet. And so a lot of times where we see American bittersweet, which is much less common than the Oriental bittersweet, you will see this cross-pollination and essentially losing some of the natural genetic variety in our American bittersweet. So the stems or the branches of bittersweet tend to be somewhat of a smooth and tan color. As the plant gets larger, you will get somewhat of a diamond-shaped pattern developing upon the outer bark. Especially with age, we can start to see some scaly bark. While Asian bittersweet does like to grow in full sunlight, it is very capable of growing in shaded environments. Here's an example of Asian bittersweet hanging out on the understory of the woodlands in my forest. Many of these vines are less than a foot tall, somewhere between 6 inches and 12 inches tall, and they are just hanging out in the understory, not really growing much, but waiting for sunlight and waiting for that prime opportunity to increase their growth and take off for the canopy. So they do have the capability of growing in fairly deep shade, but their growth is somewhat limited. But unfortunately, they do have that ability to hang out in the understory for quite some time, making them quite a problematic vine to deal with long term. As you can see back behind me is an example of a black cherry tree that is almost completely covered in Oriental bittersweet. So one of the things that I am going to do as part of this video is provide a demonstration of before and after effects of controlling bittersweet. So here you can see the before video of what this bittersweet vine is doing to this black cherry tree. So the control technique that I'm going to use on the bittersweet that's infesting my black cherry tree here is I'm going to do something that's referred to as a window cut. So essentially what I'm going to try to do is cut the bittersweet vines in two different locations, one about 4.5 feet off the ground and the other location near ground level. And this will allow me to basically see and to double check that I have treated all the vines that are impacting this tree. And then what I will end up doing is following up with a herbicide application on the stumps of the bittersweet. So if I don't apply a herbicide to those stumps, this plant will vigorously resprout, and the problem will essentially become just as bad as it is today over time. So this is a vine that very much loves growing out in the sunlight and can do a remarkably good job of covering up the branches, covering up the foliage of our native trees and shrubs, thus reducing their growth rates and decreasing their health and vigor. Importantly, in the wintertime, especially during periods of time when we might get heavy snows or ice developing on trees and branches, trees that are covered in bittersweet are more likely to see failure of branches as a result of having that extra weight of these vines and the extra weight of that ice, which hanging onto those vines, causing issues for that tree. So one of the ways in which Asian bittersweet has spread across the United States is through decorations. So Asian bittersweet is commonly used in fall decorations because of the color of the fruits that it produces. And many times folks, when they are finished with those decorations, will take them and throw them outside or throw them in the edge of their woods or back into their yard, inadvertently introducing all of these bittersweet seeds to their trees and to their woodlands. And with that, thank you for watching and have a great day.